It was one of those mornings when everything hits you all at once. I stood there, holding Big Bertha, the bass I'd watched grow for 3 years, my fish, my lake, all of it, lifeless in my hands, floating belly up. She'd been there every morning, greeting me, and now she was gone. She wasn't the only one. There were over 200 fish, all belly up, poisoned by something so vile that the smell hit me like a slap in the face. Copper sulfate mixed with the stench of death. I didn't know it yet, but Vivian Blackwater, the HOA president of Willow Creek Estates, had just made the biggest mistake of her life. See, she thought she owned my lake. And her poison wasn't just killing my fish, it was poisoning her whole neighborhood. Turns out, the spring feeding my lake also fed the entire subdivision. Every home, every tap, every glass of water that came from underground, it all came from the same place. And that place was mine. Ever had someone try to mess with your property just because they didn't like what you were doing? Let me know where you're watching from. And if you've got a similar HOA nightmare, drop it below because this one, it's about to get wild. My name's Marcus Reed. At 52, I never thought I'd be at war with a woman who probably spends more on manicures than I make in a week. But that's suburban life for you. I'm a retired electrician turned solar panel installer living here in Pine Ridge, North Carolina. The kind of guy who fixes things with his hands and believes people should mind their own damn business. Now, my 12-acre property with its spring-fed lake has been in my family since 1952. Back when this whole area was tobacco fields and people had some common sense. Every morning, I walked that gravel path my grandfather laid down, boots crunching on stones that have been worn smooth by decades of fishermen. The dock still feels warm beneath my hands, sticky with morning dew. And that sweet honeysuckle smell, mixed with the clean mineral scent of spring water, it's what I've woken up to for my whole life. For 70 years, this place has been pure peace. But then the developers moved in 15 years ago, bought up everything around me, and built Willow Creek Estates, 847 McMansions, starting at $600,000 each. They offer me millions for my land, wanted my lake for their country club. I told them they could take their money and build their clubhouse in hell. Most of the neighbors were fine. Normal folks who waved when they jogged past or asked about the fishing. But then Vivian Blackwater moved in. She's 47, drives a white Lexus that probably gets detailed more often than most people shower, and carries a leather portfolio to neighborhood barbecues. She talks like a lawyer, even when ordering coffee, throws around phrases like property value optimization and aesthetic compliance standards. The kind of person who probably schedules her bathroom breaks. 6 months in, she appointed herself HOA president. And that's when the fun started. The first shot across the bow came when she sent me a certified letter, all official, all proper. My unsightly fishing activities were apparently disturbing her peaceful enjoyment of the neighborhood. She paid $800,000 for that lakefront view, and the sight of me catching dinner from my dock was ruining her investment. Next, she said my dock violated some aesthetic covenants that were supposed to apply to all area properties. The woman had the nerve to demand I tear down something that had been standing since before she was born. I called my buddy, Tom Martinez, a real estate lawyer, who nearly choked on his coffee laughing. Marcus, he says, if your property existed before the HOA was formed, their rules can't be applied retroactively. Knowledge nugget for you. If your property predates an HOA, you're golden. But Vivian wasn't having it. When threats didn't work, she filed a false complaint with the county about my dock being illegal. A poor inspector came out, saw my 1987 permits, and apologized for wasting his time. That's when she showed her true nature. Every morning, when I'd head down to fish, suddenly, Vivian would need emergency landscaping. Leaf blowers, chainsaws, industrial mowers, all screaming at maximum volume right along her property line. Diesel fumes would drift across my lake, mixing with the honeysuckle, turning my peaceful morning into something that smelled like a construction zone. But I kept fishing. Some principles are worth defending, even against suburban tyrants with too much money and too little sense. I had no idea Vivian was just getting started. And I definitely didn't know she was crazy enough to commit environmental terrorism. 2 weeks after the inspector shot down her bogus complaint, Vivian hired the most expensive surveyor in 3 counties to verify the property boundaries. Not because there was any question my grandfather marked those lines with concrete posts that'll probably outlast civilization itself, but because she needed to harass me. The surveyor spent 6 hours measuring the same boundary that's been legally established since Truman was president. Then she did something that really tipped the scales. She filed an actual lawsuit in county court. A lawsuit for property encroachment. All over 6 inches of dock space. I nearly burst out laughing. But it wasn't funny. It was just petty. I spent my weekend in the county courthouse, digging through deed records, searching for a way to put her in her place. And I found it. My grandfather didn't just own the land. He owned the water rights to the entire lake system. Every drop, every fish, every damn molecule of H2O. And here's the kicker. The spring feeding my lake? It extends directly under her precious subdivision. Turns out, every time her neighbors flush their toilets, they're using my water. So I called Tom again with my discovery. After he stopped cackling, he said, "Marcus, you've got a nuclear weapon disguised as a property deed. We filed a countersuit for harassment, slander, and abusive legal process. The timing couldn't have been better." Vivian was hosting one of her fancy backyard dinner parties with 40 of the HOA residents. Right in the middle of her speech about maintaining property values, our sheriff's deputy walked through her back gate and served her with legal documents. She nearly fainted. The dinner guests scattered faster than rats off a sinking ship. She screamed, "That redneck is trying to intimidate me with frivolous lawsuits." Her mask slipped completely. The refined real estate attorney became just another suburban tyrant throwing a tantrum. But Vivian wasn't done yet. The next morning, I found an anonymous note under my windshield. "Stop fishing or face the consequences." It didn't take long for Vivian to escalate to weaponizing government agencies. I had federal inspectors crawling over my property, Fish and Wildlife, the EPA, the Health Department, all because she told them I was violating migratory bird patterns and creating environmental hazards by fishing. Can you believe that? But while she was busy making herself look ridiculous, I made some connections of my own. A retired county clerk named Dolores Martinez became my secret weapon. She told me that the land Vivian built her subdivision on, it was built on protected wetlands, and the developer had promised to preserve all natural water features forever. The EPA didn't take kindly to people messing with federally protected wetlands. Vivian's landscaping crew had been dumping grass clippings and fertilizer into my lake. It got better. I discovered Vivian's husband, Richard, was part owner of the landscaping company. When the EPA got involved, it was lights out for him. He lost 3 county contracts. And just like that, Vivian's perfect world began to crumble. Then she went too far. She hired a private investigator to dig up dirt on me. He followed me, tried to break into my truck, and got arrested. Vivian, desperate to stop the truth from getting out, tried to bribe the algae treatment company to destroy their records. But guess what? They kept the tapes. And when they handed them over to the authorities, things really hit the fan. I knew this was just the beginning of the fight, but I wasn't backing down. Vivian thought she could make me bend. She thought she could force me into submission. But instead, I was about to watch her world fall apart. One lawsuit at a time. Her final move? She offered me $100,000 cash to drop everything. What she didn't know was that I was wearing a wire. North Carolina's one-party consent law meant I could record every word. And when she asked me to cover up everything she'd done, I was ready. By the time this all went down, Vivian had poisoned not only my lake, but also her whole neighborhood. Copper sulfate contamination spread throughout the aquifer that fed every home in Willow Creek. And when the EPA confirmed it, I had her right where I wanted her. Her life, her business, her reputation, it all collapsed. But the best part? She never even knew she was about to lose it all. Because while she was poisoning a lake, she was also poisoning her own community. And the day she was led away in handcuffs, that was sweet justice. Now, I'm still here, sitting on my dock, watching the fish swim again. Big Bertha's descendants are thriving, and the lake has come back better than ever. The whole neighborhood, they're learning how to fish, how to appreciate the water, and how to live in harmony with the land. And every time I think about how Vivian tried to destroy everything I built, I can't help but smile. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't tearing things down. It's building something better.